Now we have arrived at our last topic today, forest or not, center versus Chhattisgarh. And this is very, very important. I have made at least 4 specific lectures talking about Indian Forest Act, Forest Conservation Act, Environmental Protection Act, Wildlife Protection Act, and Forest Rights Act. So I advise you all to go through all these lectures and have a very solid understanding of what is a reserved forest, what is a protected forest, what is a village forest, what is the difference between revenue land and forest land, and all these things. Although I will be discussing all of them here also, but since I have already discussed them, I would advise you to go through those lectures. You can easily find them. The news is forest or not, center versus Chhattisgarh. Actually, what happened is in March, the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh, Mr. Bhupesh Baghel, announced that he will be transferring around 300 square kilometer of forest department land to revenue department to ensure easy availability of land for setting up industries and building infrastructure in Bastar region. Now Bastar region is a LWE affected region. LWE means left wing extremism affected region. Okay. That is, Bastar region is LWE affected region. And to spur development in that region, the Chief Minister said that he will be transferring around 300 square kilometer area from forest department to revenue department. Now forest department, all the land that is not forest comes under the revenue department. Every land, whether owned by me, owned by you, or owned by anyone, okay, that comes under revenue department. And whenever a transaction of land happens, okay, if one person sells his land to other person, then revenue department makes an entry into its register about the ownership of that land. Ownership nahi, but it says that the land has been transferred from one person to another, and now this person is holding the patta, for example, for that land. That means, and in that process, the person has to pay a specific tax to the revenue department. That means all the land within a state can be classified into only two parts: the revenue land and the forest land. Now forest land is protected from diversion for non-forest use. A forest land cannot be diverted for non-forest use without the permission of central government. See, forests come under, see, Chhattisgarh did not seek forest clearance. Okay, they did not seek forest clearance from MOEFCC, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and said that the earlier handover of revenue department's land to forest department was by mistake. Now the Union Ministry has pointed out that the land is an undemarcated protected forest, orange area that is called, which cannot be given away without forest clearance. Now let's look at the forest classification. There was actually a case on the definition of forest as to what should be the definition of forest. That is, it's a very important case. Okay, so that case is called, what that case is called? In 1995, yes, the Godavaram judgment, Supreme Court said that forest shall be, actually in Forest Conservation Act 1980, there are 3 kinds of forest defined. Okay, the first one is the forest that is already notified as forest. The second one is the land which is under the occupancy of government, okay, and it has been, it is a forest naturally. The third one that has been adjudicated upon by Supreme Court is the specific forest, and Supreme Court said that the forest shall have the term forest shall have the dictionary meaning. That means for every purpose of law, the forest will be what is mentioned in the dictionary. It also said that authority to classify a land already a forest, which is not a forest already, lies with the state government. That is, the state government can notify any land within its possession as a forest land. But the power to denotify is not with the state government completely. Although the notification for denotifying the forest land as non-forest land or revenue land lies with the state government itself, but it will have to take clearance from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Now, very important point is the forests were originally under the state list, but by 42nd Amendment Act 1976, they were brought into the concurrent list. Okay, the state government should constitute expert committee for the same. Now, Forest Conservation Act 1980 says that Forest Conservation Act 1980 puts a restriction on diversion of forest for non-forest use. Okay, in any case, if it is being diverted, then the permission of forest the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change must has to be taken. Okay. Now forests can be classified into three important classifications. The first one is reserved forest, the second one is protected forest, and the third one is village forest. Now reserved forests are those forests which are having highest degree of protection. In the reserve forest, no kind of people's encroachment is allowed. Okay. In reserve forest, no kind of people's encroachment is allowed, and it is reserved by the state government. Okay. So even no minor forest produce can be collected. Forest produce can also be not collected. Cattle cannot also be not grazed. Okay. And any kind of logging activity that takes place inside the reserve forest, that will have to take permission from the state government. Okay, state government. Now there is always a conflict between the conservationists and the rights group. The rights group are the people. Rights groups are the people who fight for the rights of the people living inside the forests. Okay, and they say that people are an integral part of the forest ecosystem, and hence they should have the right to live and perform their livelihood in the traditional way in the forest that they have been doing. But the conservationists, on the other hand, the people who argue that human activity has led to the deterioration of forests, and that is why humans should be kept away from the forest, so that the pristinity or the natural habitat or the natural ecosystem of the forest can be conserved. Okay, so there is always a conflict between two, right? So what state governments want is maximization of revenue. What they want to do is transfer most of the forest land to revenue land, so that more industries can be set up. Okay, and that is why there's always a conflict between rights group and conservationist. Now forest department is a conservationist department. Okay, forest department is conservationist. It wants to protect the forests, and it also wants to restrict the human activity to these forests. Okay, so reserved forests are under the state government. Okay, all are under the state government actually, and the rights of people for movement, cattle and minus forest produce is very restricted inside the reserve forests. Okay, after comes protected forest. Protected forests are those specific forest lands in the possession of the state government, in which some kind of activity like cattle grazing, minor forest produce collection, and all these things are allowed after the permission of the forest officer. Okay, but logging is still prohibited. Logging means cutting wood from these forests. It's still prohibited. And then comes the village forest. Any forest that resides in the vicinity of a village, that is village forest. The villagers have the right of use of that specific kind of forest. Now you can clearly see the degree of protection is reserve forest, protected forest and village forest. I hope you understood this, and this was I hope you learned from this. If you have any issues or any questions out of these, kindly comment in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to take them. And that brings us to the end of the lecture. I wish you all a very educative week ahead. Thank you.